Alright guys, what's up? We're back. It's the start of the new reveal season. I just rolled out of bed. I haven't seen any of this new stuff yet. Some of you guys have already. Let's check it out together. Okay, Slaughter Docks. Let's check it out. Alright, round start, toss 1. If you are deep, destroy me to summon a random sea monster. What the hell? So it tosses 4, 5, 6, 7. Probably toss like 4 cards total. If you, at that point in the game, when you actually get to deep, after it's tossed like 3 or 4, then it'll basically just summon a random sea monster from any pool of sea monsters potentially. That's kind of weird. Huh, interesting. I wonder how good that is. It's a little slow, and half the sea monsters in the game aren't actually going to be that good when it gets summoned, right? If you're deep. I mean, if you draw this, like, when you're getting deep, this is going to be potentially pretty alright. It's right on the level. Like, I might see some people experimenting with it, I guess. I'm not sure if... Basically, what it's replacing is something like Jettison, right? It's like you're paying 2 more mana for Jettison for the privilege to get a random sea monster out of it later. It doesn't look super amazing, but it actually doesn't. It looks playable.
Less than 3.
Alright, let's check out the next one. I have to look at them all together. Shuffle a unit or landmark into its deck. Sunk cost. Haha. Wow, 8 mana slow. So it's like Vengeance, basically. And by the way, so they mentioned that some of the cards that were already in the game, some of the removal, would retroactively been given the or landmark clause. So like they mentioned certain things will be able to deal with landmarks. So we don't know exactly how valuable that is yet. But yeah, this is like really, really expensive. Jesus. Slow 8 mana. Shuffle into its deck. I mean, shuffle into its deck is kind of one of the most powerful effects possible. But at 8 mana, I don't know if we could afford that. Lounging Lizard. Round start, deal 2 to me. Alright, here we go. This is an elusive. It's a very, very, wow. It's got a great stat line. It's a 3 mana 3/5. And basically, it'll survive 3 turns. So it's very similar to Golden Narwhal, where it's an overpowered stat line for an elusive, and it has a downside that makes it can't see cost. Oops, I need to move my head slightly. My bad. Yeah, it's a 3 mana 3/5. The fact that it has elusive keyword will make it just very, very powerful in that kind of list. Like, I will very absolutely run this in any kind of elusive Bilgewater list. It will live for 3 turns, right? So you attack the turn you play it, and then it takes 2, and then it takes 2 again, and then it'll attack the next turn afterwards, right? So just on its own, it lives for 2 attacks. You can combine it with certain effects, like, for example, maybe heals, which will allow it to attack for maybe a 3rd time. But that's kind of already good enough. You don't really need it to attack for more than 2 attacks. Like, 2 attacks is great, right? Most units don't even live that long for 2 attacks. One of the downsides of this card is it can only live for 2 attacks if you play it on your attack turn, right? And this is a weakness of the card, which you basically can't play it, or at least you feel like you shouldn't play it on a defensive turn, right? Because, like, okay, let's say you have a Golden Narwhal. If you play it on defense after the opponent attacked, then you can, like, open attack. Whereas it's really hard to attack with Lounging Lizard, because you really want to play it right before your attack so that it can attack twice. It's round start, not end. It's 3 attacks. What? But it's only 2 attack turns because it alternates attack and defense turns, right? So Lounging Lizard is very strong. This is probably the strongest card we've seen so far right here. I don't know if it'll see play right away, but in any sort of elusive deck, which will eventually be a thing, Lounging Lizard will absolutely see like 3 of play. Fortune Croaker. 2 mana, 2/3 play, deal 1 to me, and an ally to draw 1. Interesting. So it's an ability that doesn't go on the stack. It's not counterable. Basically, it'll end up being a 2 mana 2/2. You just deal 1 to an ally to draw 1. So isn't that like completely insane? Wait, what? That's pretty good. It's not counterable. So this is a really, really important thing. There's no like circle over here. If you look at a very similar card, Imperial Demolitionist, there's a little circle where it says play, which means it's a skill that goes on a stack, which means they can counter it, and if they stopped its ability, the whole thing would stop. Fortune Croaker doesn't have that, which means, you know, I mean, if we're reading this correctly, this doesn't go on the stack. This is not counterable. It's like Brightsteel Protector or Icevale Archer, where it resolves immediately with no opponent ability to interact with this, right? You can do a lot with this, right? You can use it to activate certain like damage effects. You can use it to activate certain death wishes. It's just a value draw card. The ability to just like draw right away is really impactful. When you compare this to like Avaros and Sentry, which draws a card after it dies, the ability to draw a card on play is much more valuable than the ability to draw a card post-death. So this card, if we're reading this correctly, this is very, very, very good. There's a lot of combos we can do with this one. All right, these are getting a lot better. These are getting better. All right, we got Boxtopus. What the hell? So yeah, these Bilgewater cards are a lot of like self-damage effects. Very, very strange that there's like a Bilgewater self-damage archetype. People are saying like this is gonna be like Tom Kench's archetype, and that it'll be able to merge with healing, of course. Any of the Taurean healing cards. So Boxtopus is a 2 mana 3/4. It's really a 2 mana 3/2. Or sorry, 2 mana 3/1. I don't know how I said 2. It's a 2 mana 3/1 that has Challenger and the ability to heal. So it's most comparable to like Trifarian Glory Seeker, which is the 2 mana 5/1. I actually think a 2 mana. So we actually haven't really seen 2 mana challengers. We've seen like Stalking Wolf, which never really saw play, only a bit of experimentation. We saw like Trifarian Glory Seeker, which has 5 attack with the inability to block. And we've got this Boxtopus. Boxtopus. The question is, would this see play without healing at all? Combine it with Key Guardian. You actually could combine this with Key Guardian. That's really, really, really funny. Because it should, in theory, take the barrier off the Key Guardian and just be, you know, a 2 mana 3/4 challenger. That's pretty nice. This card actually seems pretty competitive. There's a lot of cool things you can do with this, right? Sap Magic will start getting used. Well, I don't know about that one. I mean, it probably will. It would seem a lot more likely to run it in like a heal package, like some of Targon cards. It's basically an instant swing tracker. I think that combine all those with Lemon Dude. Yeah, Citrus Courier can work with this as well. Citrus Courier like full heals your board. The only problem is, I don't know like how likely it is to get like both of those together at the same time. And you're often gonna want to like. You don't often want to play Citrus Courier like when you can also play Boxtopus as like a turn 8 play. And it's going to die before then if you play it earlier. This one's super interesting. So the question is, how good is a 2 mana 3/1 challenger? The answer is, it's actually a lot better than it seems. I think like even on its own value, like even without the fact that it can get healed, it's pretty borderline playable for sure. When you add the fact that it just heals on top of that, that's pretty nice. Retreat Return. Retreat Return is funny because it's a play effect and not a summon effect. So you can just cheat it out. Anything that summons this card without playing it will basically be able to cheat out this effect, right? This one seems like one of the best ones. It's a little hard to evaluate cards like this because they are meant to be combo pieces with some of the healing that we haven't seen yet. Crusty Codger, is this the last one? Play, deal 2 to me. So this is a 1 mana. Oh god, it's in a long line of 1 mana 2/2s with an upside. So it's basically a 1 mana 2/2 that has the ability to heal up further. It's a 1 mana 2/2. I mean, what are the best heals? Guiding Touch? Petty Officer build? This is crazy in Petty Officer, of course. Because Petty Officer, again, it's a summon effect, and Crusty Codger is a play effect. It only counts when you play it from hand, which means that Petty Officer can just get a 2/4 randomly. Gems. Yeah, gems are really good healing. Gems are probably the best. I think combining all these cards with a gem deck would actually be really, really, really strong. It would really have to be. It depends on like the champions and the specifics that tie it all together. But these cards are really, really powerful on their own. Let me see if there's anything else. Okay, and then this Crumble. And then I'll do like a once over, just kind of like reviewing them when I've seen them all together. Crumble is kill an ally to kill a unit or destroy a landmark. And it's at slow speed. Man, everything is at slow speed. It's hard to actually evaluate how much it's worth to have just like slow speed main deck removal. The closest thing we have is Comet. But of course, Comet doesn't have a deck building cost. Because you just run Solar Priestess, and Priestess can get you Comet. It's a bad single combat. I don't know. This is really weird. Can it kill champions? Yes, this can kill champions. It just kills a unit, not a follower. It's an SI, yeah. Out of all the cards we've seen, the rest of them have been Bilgewater cards, and then they're showing like one SI card here. It's kill 2 and not obliterate. It's like Sunburst. Yeah, it's probably closest to Sunburst, for sure. We don't know how important removing a landmark is yet. I would wager it's not super important. I don't know, at 5 mana, 5 might just be a hair too much. It's so close. Like, slow speed is such a death sentence for most cards. Another really big problem with this is that it's got the condition kill an ally to kill a unit or destroy a landmark. Like, the fact of the matter is it's completely counterable, right? Because it has this word here, to kill a unit or destroy a landmark. What that means is, like, when you play this, if your opponent stops you from killing your ally, let's say you use like a single combat or something, like they just stop you from having that ally when Crumble's trying to go off, then it just fizzles. And that's just so vulnerable, right? Like anything that would just like at fast speed stop this from going off is really awkward. And if you try to like sacrifice something weak, which you would do because, you know, obviously you want to sacrifice weakness on average, then it makes it even more easy for them to disrupt this effect, right? Like, it's always going to be so risky to sacrifice a 1 HP target against, for example, something like Bilgewater or Noxus. I will say, you know, this card is meant as support for, like Undying decks would be good with this. I could see that, but for the most part, Crumble's looking really, really weak. Like, it's very baity. The fact that it's slow speed and the fact that it has this fizzleable and counterable condition is really, really, really clunky and not worth the mana price on this. Okay, so just to like kind of like briefly go over these. Slaughterdox is alright. I think that we're gonna have to see if there's any other like cards that will support this. It looks a little clunky. Like, giving up your 3 mana slot for this effect is not gonna be amazing, but it's alright. Sunk Cost looks really overcosted. Lounging Lizard looks great. The ability for, you know, any sort of like elusive card to have good stats. This looks better than Golden Narwhal even, which is crazy because Golden Narwhal is very good in any sort of elusive deck. Fortune Croaker is, I think this card is pretty insane, We're going to have to see this in action. This is probably the strongest card they've shown so far. It feels like you'll run this in a ton of decks, and it will synergize with all this, you know, healing and gem stuff as well. This one seems the most nutty. Boxtopus is pretty good. Again, you're mostly going to want to run it in those like gem style archetypes, but I think it's going to be really, really crazy within those. Crusty Codger is alright. You know what? I mean, anytime there's a 1-mana 2/2, it can never be so bad. I actually do think this one's probably a little bit weaker than Boxtopus, honestly. I'd prefer to run Boxtopus than Crusty Codger. The thing about Crusty Codger is, like, at this point in the game, you actually often aren't going to be able to... You're not going to be able to heal it as easily. You're not going to be able to gain as much value from its stats as Boxtopus because it doesn't have Challenger. And it's kind of fighting for... Like, it's fighting for the same slot as Jagged Butcher, which might not necessarily be easy. And getting it all the way up to, like... If you're going to spam gems on it, then you're going to have probably, like, more attack than you need at that stage in the game. It's pretty good for the most part, but I would say, like, it goes Fortune Croaker, and then Boxtopus, and then Crusty Codger in terms of power level. And then Crumble is probably non-competitive, just a little too weak and fizzleable. Alright, and that's today's reveals. What this means, it's extremely likely that tomorrow they will reveal Tahm Kench. The way they do these reveal seasons with, like, you know, the last expansion at least was... They do basically a day where they reveal a bunch of support cards, and then the day after that they reveal a champion. So it looks like we are getting Tahm Kench tomorrow, right? Kench would make me so happy. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. All right, guys, that's it for me, and I'll see you then.